The BFG by Roald Dahl, Chapter 13. A Trogglehumper for the Fleshlumpeater. Oh, they's always having 50 winks before they's go scumpering off to hunt human beings in the evening, the BFG said. He stopped for a few moments to let Sophie have a better look. Giants is only sleeping every now and then. Not nearly as much as human beings. Human beings is crazy for sleeping. Is it ever occurring to you that a human being who is 50 is spending about 20 years sleeping fast? I must admit, that never occurred to me. Sophie said, "Oh, you should allow it to occur to you." The BFG said, "Oh, imagine it, please. This human being who says he's 50 has been fast asleep for 20 years and does not even know where he is. Not even doing anything. Not even thinking. That's a funny thought." "Oh, exactly. So what he's trying to explain to you is that a human being who says he's 50 is not 50. He's only 30. Quite like the sound of that. "What about me?" Sophie said. "I'm 8. "Oh, you's not 8 at all," the BFG said. "Human being babies and little chidlers is spending half their time sleeping. So you is only 4. "I'm 8, Sophie said. "Oh, you may think you is 8, but you's only spent 4 years of your life with your little eyes open. You's only 4, and please stop higgling me. Titchy little snapper whippers like you should not be higgling around with an old sage and onions who is hundreds of years more than you." "How much do giants sleep?" "Oh, there's never wasting much time snozzling. 2 or 3 hours is enough." "When do you sleep?" "Even less. I sleeping only once in a blue baboon." Sophie, peeping out from her pocket, examined the 9 sleeping giants. They looked even more grotesque now than when they were awake. Sprawled out across the yellow plain, they covered an area about the size of a football field. Most of them were lying on their backs with their enormous mouths wide open, and they were snoring like foghorns. The noise was awful. Suddenly, the BFG gave a jump in the air. "Oh, by gum frog! I's just having the most wopsy whiffling idea." "What?" "Oh, wait! Hold your horse feathers. Keep your skirt on. Just you wait and see what he's going to bring about." He galloped off fast to his cave with Sophie hanging on tight to the rim of the pocket. He rolled back the stone. He entered the cave. He was very excited. He was moving quickly. "Oh, now you stay where you is in my pocket, Huggy Bee. We's doing this lovely bit of bushwaggling both together." He laid aside the dream-catching net, but hung on to the suitcase. He ran across the other side of the cave and grabbed the long trumpet thing, the one he'd been carrying when Sophie had first seen him in the village. With the suitcase in one hand and the trumpet in the other, he dashed out to the cave. What is he up to now? Sophie wondered. "Oh, peep your head up good, then you'll get a fine winkle of what's going on." When the BFG came near to the sleeping giants, he slowed his pace. He began moving softly. He crept on his toes towards the ugly brutes. They were still snoring loudly. They looked repulsive, filthy, diabolical. The BFG tiptoed around them. He went past the gizzard gulper, the blood bottler, the meat dripper, the child chewer. Then he stopped. He'd reached the Fleshlumpeater. He pointed at him. Then he looked down at Sophie and gave her a big wink. He knelt on the ground and very quietly he opened his suitcase. He took out of it the glass jar containing the terrible, nightmarish Trogglehumper. At that point, Sophie guessed what was going to happen next. "Ouch," she thought. "This could be rather dangerous." She crouched lower in the pocket, so that only the tip of her head and her eyes were showing. She wanted to be ready to duck out of sight very fast, should anything go wrong. They were about 10 feet away from the Fleshlumpeater's face. The snoring, snorting noise he was making was disgusting. Every now and again, a big bubble of spit formed between his two open lips, and then it would burst with a splash of saliva and cover his face. Taking infinite care, the BFG unscrewed the top of the glass jar and tipped the squiggling, squirming, faintly scarlet Trogglehumper into the wide end of his long trumpet. He put the other end of the trumpet to his lips. He aimed the instrument directly at the Fleshlumpeater's face. He took a deep breath, puffed out his cheeks, and then he blew. Pretty daring. Sophie saw a flash of pale red go darting towards the giant's face. For a split second it hovered above the face, then it was gone. It seemed to have been sucked up the giant's nose. But it all happened so quickly, Sophie couldn't be sure. Oh, we'd better be skilling away quick to where it's safe. The BFG trotted off for about 100 yards, then he stopped. He crouched low to the earth. Oh, now we's waiting for the gun and flames to begin. They didn't have to wait long. The air was suddenly pierced by the most fearful roar Sophie had ever heard. And she saw the Fleshlumpeater's body, all 54 feet of it, rise up off the ground and fall back again with a thump. Then it began to wriggle and twist and bounce about in the most violent fashion. It was quite frightening to watch. Roared the Fleshlumpeater. Oh, he's still asleep. The terrible Trogglehumper nightmare is beginning to hit him. Serves him right, Sophie said. She could feel no sympathy for the great brute who ate children as though they were sugar lumps. There is a Fleshlumpeater. Save us! Screamed the Fleshlumpeater, thrashing about madly. He's after me! He's getting me! The thrashing of limbs and the waving of arms became more violent by the second. It was an awesome thing to watch, such a massive creature having such mighty convulsions. It's Jack! Bellowed the Fleshlumpeater. It's the grueful, gruntious Jack! Jack is after me! Jack is whack crackling me! He's spike sticking me! He's splash splunking me! It's the terrible, fright swiping Jack! The Fleshlumpeater was writhing about over the ground like some colossal tortured snake. Oh, spare me! Don't hurt me, Jack! Who's this Jack he's on about? Oh, Jack's the only human being all giants is afraid of. They's all absolutely terrified of Jack. They's all hearing that Jack's a famous giant killer. Save me! Have mercy on this poor little giant. The beanstalk, he's coming at me with his terrible spike-sticking beanstalk. Take it away, I was begging you. I was praying you not to touch me with your terrible spike-sticking beanstalk. Us giants is not knowing very much about this dreaded human being called Jack. We's knowing only that he's a famous giant killer. And that he's owning something called a beanstalk. We's knowing also that the beanstalk's a fearsome thing, and Jack's using it to kill giants. Jack and the beanstalk. Sophie couldn't stop smiling. What's you giggling at? The BFG asked her, slightly nettled. I'll tell you later, Sophie said. And there they are, having a little conversation, while something's starting to erupt in the background. The awful nightmare had now gripped the great brute to such an extent that he was tying his whole body into knots. Do not do it, Jack! I was not eating you! I was never eating human beings, I swear. I was never gobbled a single human being in my wholesome life. Oh, liar, liar, said the BFG. Just then, one of the Fleshlumpeater's flailing fists caught the still fast asleep, meat-dripping giant, smack, pump, in the mouth. At the same time, one of his furiously thrashing legs kicked the snoring gizzard-gumpling giant right in the guts. Ugh! Both the injured giants woke up and leapt to their feet. "He's swiping me right in the mouth!" yelled the meat dripper. "He is bong-swoggling me smack in the guts!" shouted the gizzard gulper. The two of them rushed at the Fleshlumpeater and began pounding him with their fists and feet. The wretched Fleshlumpeater woke up with a bang. He awoke straight from one nightmare into another. He roared into battle, and in the bellowing, thumping rough and tumble that followed, one sleeping giant after another either got stepped upon or kicked. Soon, all 9 of them were on their feet, having the most almighty free-for-all. They punched and kicked and scratched and bit and butted each other as hard as they could. Blood flowed. Noses went crunch. Teeth fell out like hailstones. The giants roared and screamed and cursed, and for many minutes the noise of battle rolled across the yellow plain. It's painful. The BFG smiled a big, wide smile of absolute pleasure. Always loving it when he's all having a good tough and rumble. They'll kill each other. Oh, never. Those beasts are always bishing and walloping one another. Soon it'll be getting dusky and they'll be galloping off to fill their tummies. They're coarse and foul and filthy. I hate them. As the BFG headed back to the cave, he said quietly, "Oh, we certainly was putting that nightmare to good use, though, wasn't we?" "Excellent use," Sophie said. "Well done, you."